We are continuing today, Mesillas Hashem and Mesillas Yesharim, and the Ramchal in yesterday's shiur discussed the idea that the Chassid is fully focused on serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu for the sake of amplifying the greatness of Hashem and allowing the greatness of Hashem to be perceived, to be understood, and to be felt within this world. So the Ramchal says, "V'hinei HaChassid hazeh," this Chassid, milvad ha'avoda she'over ma'aseh mitzvos ala kavana zos. In addition to his performance of mitzvos with this aforementioned kavana, hinei vadai tzar she'itzar tamid tzar mamish ala golos va'ala chorban. So this is very interesting. Part of what the Chassid has to focus on, in addition to the fact that the Chassid is always focused on how could I amplify and how can I magnify the greatness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and the kavod of Hashem as expressed or as is felt in this world, he also has to constantly and perpetually feel the tsar, the pain of Golus, of the diaspora, and of the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash. Mitzad Masha is a gorei miot, because as long as we are in a state of Golus, and as long as the Beis HaMikdash is not yet rebuilt, that represents a diminution to the greatness of Hashem. Let me say it differently. Not the objective greatness of Hashem, chas v'shalom, but the way the greatness of Hashem as it is perceived in this world. Therefore, the Chassid always wants redemption. Now, why does the Chassid want messianic redemption? Now, this is very interesting. Everyone wants Mashiach, but the truth is, remember, very often what ends up happening is the reason why I might want Mashiach is because of what Mashiach will do for me. Once again, the Chassid is never focused on the benefits for him. The Chassid is focused on the fact that why do I want Mashiach? Because the coming of Mashiach will represent an amplification of the greatness of Hashem in this world. As we saw before, that the Chassid has to desire and has to feel the pain for the kavod of Yerushalayim. In other words, he desires the rebuilding of Yerushalayim and feels the pain over the destruction of Yerushalayim. He goes on, and therefore the Chassid perpetually davens over again the Geula of Klal Yisrael and the restoration of the kavod of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Yomer Adam, perhaps a person will say, Mi ani u'ma ani safun shespala agos val Yerushalayim. That is very interesting. Maybe a person will say, come on, what do you need me to daven for Mashiach? You think I am one person. I'm not important enough to move the needle on global redemption, on Klal Yisrael's Geula, on the restoration of the Beis HaMikdash. Shivasa b'tzido. So the Ramchal writes, the answer is right there. Ke'osa sheshaninu lefichach nivra adam yichidi. So this is incredibly beautiful. The Ramchal here quotes the Gemara and notes, people, right? Adam was created alone, and then Chava was created from Adam. So meaning, why didn't HaKadosh Baruch Hu just create two people from the beginning? So what's interesting is the Gemara says, because had two people been created from the beginning, one would have thought the only way to impact change is in greater groups. You need at least two. You need a group. Man is created by himself to highlight the idea that every single individual has the ability to impact change. That every single individual has the ability to make a dramatic difference in this world. And a person should never say chas v'shalom that he doesn't have the ability to move the needle. That's what Gemara says, Bishvili nivra ha'olam. Man was created alone in order that every single person will say the world was created for me. What does it mean? It doesn't mean the world was created for me. It means that I alone have the ability to create dramatic impact in this world. Ukvar nachas ruach hu lefanav yisparach shiu banav mevakshim spalim alzos. And now the Ramchal says something incredibly important. You see, often we gauge the efficacy of prayer through getting the desired results. If I daven and I get what I want, that means that I had a successful prayer experience. If I daven and I don't get what I want, that means it was unsuccessful. And the Ramchal says there's nothing further from the truth. A successful prayer experience is where one davens with the full understanding that they could affect change. What does happen, what doesn't happen, that's up to the Ribono Shel Olam and based on a variety of different circumstances. That has a whole number of different realities built into it. But at the end of the day, says the Ramchal, the ability to affect or not affect change, by definition, that's up to Hashem. My job is to put in the effort. And so as soon as I put in the effort, as soon as I daven believing that I have the capacity to affect change, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is sameach al zeh, He is happy with that. It's such a beautiful idea. V'ala heder zeh hadavar Yisrael Manavi vayar ki ein ish v'ishtom ki ein mafkia v'amar v'abit ve'ein ozer v'ishtom ve'ein somech v'amar Tzion hi doresh la u'pershe zochron lebracha mechlal debaya drisha. So based on all these psukim, the Ramchal writes Harikan shechayovim anachnu bazeh ve'ein anu lipater mipnei miot kochenu. So it's actually very beautiful. The Ramchal says based on these psukim that he quoted, the job of the chassid is to daven for Geula. The job of the chassid is to daven for Mashiach. The job of the chassid, the job of every Jew, yearning to be a chassid, is to daven for redemption, to daven for the world to be put back together, to daven for the Shekhinah to be more acutely felt. You'll say, you're only one person. I'm only one person. What can change could I affect? Absolutely, unequivocally untrue. Adam Nivra Yechidi, like the Gemara said, a person was created, only one person originally to teach us, Bishvili Nivra Olam, that I could affect change, I can make a difference. My tefillos are answered, they're not answered, they're answered the way I want them to be done. That's not my department, right? That's not my cheshbon. That's up to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. My job is to put in the effort, and once I put in the effort, we're good to go. He quotes over here, Ki al yotzi vazesheninu lo alecha hamalacha ligmar ve'ein ata ben chorin v'ata ben chorin libatam. A beautiful, beautiful statement of Chazal in Pirkei Avos. Lo alecha hamalacha ligmar. It is not your job to finish the job, but at the same time, you're not free to exempt yourself from the responsibility of working, which is another way of saying, my job is to put in the effort. My job is to work. My job is to do. That's my job. That's my job. The results, what comes to fruition, what doesn't, that's up to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. V'amra Hanavi, ve'ein mina lo mikol banim yalad, ve'ein machzik biyad mikol banim gidela, v'amar kol basar chatzir v'chol chasto katzitz asad, v'pershus zechron lebracha. This is actually quite beautiful. Again, the Ramchal, as you've seen already, his derech is often he'll make a point, and then he'll bring a number of psukim to support that point. So we're going through the psukim a little bit faster, but here I do want to draw your attention to something very interesting. Quotes the pasuk from Yeshai v'amar kol ha'baser chatzir v'chol chasto ketzitz hasada. So what's interesting is he goes ahead and he compares the following. He says, kalabasar ultimately again means to all flesh. Chatzir, v'chol chasto kitzitz hasada. So all living creatures, right? All basar, ultimately again is like vegetation in the earth. V'chol chasto, and their chesed is kitzitz hasada, like the grass growing from the ground. What's the pshat? It's actually quite beautiful. So he says, u'pershus zechron lebracha shekol chesed she'osim li'atzmam heim osim. The same idea. L'tovas nafshem u'la'anasim ve'in miskavnim l'kavana shlema hazos l'mavakshim al ilu yakavu gulasan shel Yisrael. It's actually really beautiful. So the Ramchal over here quotes, the way he interprets the pasuk over here is that when people do chesed, it's often like planting vegetation. Meaning what? That when a farmer plants vegetation, why is he planting it? He's planting it so he can benefit from it. It's very clear. He's putting in the effort because he wants something in return. The Ramchal over here says that what the Navi is telling us is that often when we do chesed, we do it for self-serving motivations. Now, to be clear, that's not saying that that's bad. In other words, obviously, people are utilitarian in nature, so we're going to do things in which we see a benefit. So a person does chesed, sometimes he does chesed because he wants a benefit from it. Now, what's the benefit? The benefit could be anything. The benefit is because I want reward in this world, or even something loftier, like I want reward in the world to come. And remember, that's a level. But in this chapter, we're talking about chasidus. And the chassid, as the Ramchal now has pointed out to us, does not do things in life for his own benefit, even lofty personalistic benefit. He doesn't do that. What the chassid does, he does for spiritual purposes for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So ultimately, again, over here, he's describing Shari'i Efshar Lavod, Efshar Lekavod Elyon L'Israbos. So the whole idea says the chassid, says the Ramchal, is sometimes we do chesed, And we only do it for lower levels, self-serving levels, personalistic levels. But the goal ultimately of doing chesed is to lift up Klal Yisrael. The goal of doing chesed is to lift up HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He goes on, he says, Shari efshar lekavod ha'elyon lehisrabos, ela begulasan sheisa berubei kvodam, shezeh taloi bazeh bemes. This is quite beautiful. The Ribono Shel Olam is only exalted when Klal Yisrael is lifted up. And how is Klal Yisrael lifted up? When we do chesed for one another. So says Ramchal, this is the kavana a person has to do when they do chesed. Why am I doing chesed for another Jew? Because I want to lift you up. I want to lift up Klal Yisrael. Because when I lift up Klal Yisrael, I lift up the Ribono Shel Olam. What a profound idea. Again, what does the chassid do? The chassid thinks about, or literally, he sighs for sometimes the lack of kavod for Klal Yisrael, the lack of kavod for Hashem. So what we see come out of this is something really beautiful, and all part of this section where the Ramchal explains that this. Remember, this is in the kavana section of Chassidus. And in the Kavanah section of Chassidus, Ramchal is highlighting to us that the Chassid does things. The Chassid does things for the sake of amplifying the greatness of Hashem. Now what we've also begun to see is the Chassid mourns for the absence of the Beis HaMikdash. He mourns for the absence of rebuilt Yerushalayim. He mourns over Galus. Why? Because in destruction and in Galus, the greatness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not as acutely felt in this world as it could be. Therefore, the Chassid constantly yearns and pines for Geula. Why? Not for himself, but because with Geula comes the greatness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in this world is lifted up. And then the Ramchal says, same idea, chesed. Why does the chassid engage in chesed? Why does the chassid engage in chesed? Because chesed lifts up Klal Yisrael. And when Klal Yisrael is lifted up, the greatness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is amplified as well. Such a beautiful idea. And lastly, the Ramchal throws in there this incredible concept that a person should never think that their singular action has no ability to affect change. There could be nothing further from the truth. Adam Nivra Yechidi. A person was created as a solitary individual. Adam was created as one person, not two originally. Why? To highlight the idea that Bishvili Nivra Olam, the world was created for me, meaning that a person, an individual, has the ability to affect so much dramatic change. We'll stop over here for today, wishing everyone a beautiful and uplifting Shabbos Kodesh.